Hi, I'm Billy. And welcome to Jack of Trades. In this video, we are going to proceed in creating a simple content management system. This time, we will focus on the create functionality and how we will implement the Laravel Jetstream's Modal component in our Livewire component. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Before we begin, let's prepare a couple of things. First, let's activate Laravel Jetstream views so that we will be able to use it in our application. When we go to the Laravel documentation, scroll down, and you should see the Livewire section. Under the Components subsection, we can run this command to publish the Jetstream views in our application. Let's go ahead and copy-paste this command in our command line. Make sure that you are in the root directory of your application. After that, we should see the Jetstream components under our resources. Views. Vendor. Jetstream. Components. There are many ready-made components under Jetstream, but in this tutorial, we will only use its button and modal components. Let us then prepare our pages model and migration. In this database table, we are going to save our main pages. We will be creating dynamic pages that will be viewed in our front end through the unique URL slugs. URL slugs are the part of the URL that comes after the domain name. The URL slugs will be the unique identifier of our dynamic web pages. Now let's run the PHP artisan migrate to create our database table. Let's go ahead and create our Livewire pages component. And we will also create a Livewire front page component that will handle the display of our web pages from the front end. We will be updating the front end in the later videos. We will also download Trix Editor so that it's easier for us to implement a what you get text editor in our Livewire component. Let's go to the Trix Editor GitHub page and follow the installation instructions. Downloading packages via the Composer takes time, so you can pause this video if you follow along. And don't forget to add the Trix assets in your app.blade.php too. Now that everything is set up, let's go ahead and update our routes/web.php. The goal is to group routes that will only be available when the user is authenticated. The current setup only has the dashboard being authenticated. But we wanted to add another route for the pages here, so we're going to do that as well. We will create a folder under the admin's views, and inside, we will create a page.blade.php. So we will be going to set up the page route like this. Let's just go ahead and copy the dashboard template and change things up to match our pages page. Let's update the navigation.blade.php so that we will see our pages link above. Let's also prepare our page model. By default, Laravel doesn't allow you to save things in your model if you don't specify the mass assignments field's fillable variable. But by putting guarded as empty, we will be able to mass assign all the fields in the database table that is mapped in this model. Let us display our Livewire pages component in the admin/page.blade.php. Now that we are finished setting things up, let's update our pages class component, which is located under app, http, Livewire. Let's go ahead and add the slug, title, and content properties, which are properties that we will map in our database table fields. Since we are working with Tailwind CSS by default, we will write lots of CSS classes in your HTML markup. And the first thing we wanted to do here is adding a button create that will show our modal component. When working with Laravel Jetstreams, there are ready-made samples that are created during the installation of our Laravel app. So we will just search for the Blade files that are using the ready-made Jetstream components here. For faster development, just copy one of the sample implementations. This component will display a button with a ready-made Tailwind CSS styling. Let's add a wire click to this button. We will add a function that will show the modal component. The trick here is we will add another variable that holds Boolean data. This variable will control the Jetstream modal's visibility. In our case, we will add the modal form visible variable and set it to false by default because we only wanted to show the modal form when we click the create button. So inside our create show modal function, we will set the modal form variable to true because this is the function called every time you click the create button from the front end. I would also recommend installing PHPDoc Comment extension to add documentation in each PHP function you create easily. We will be adding documentation for each function that we will create in this tutorial. To use the extension, highlight the name of the function and press Ctrl+Shift+I. Now, we will add the Jetstream modal form. For some reason, it seems Jetstream components have huge markups. It will take us too long if we write them down line by line. Again, let's copy some existing examples that use the dialog modal and paste it into our view component. Let's change things up a bit to match the component with our goal. As you can see, we are adding the modal form visible variable in the wire model of the Jetstream modal. This is how we control the visibility of the modal in our Livewire component. This is a different implementation than the last time. Using the Jetstream modal component, we can avoid the modal being hidden every time the Livewire re-renders part of our view component. Let us then create a function later to the create functionality. Let's add create to our wire click action. Let us search for another sample markup for Jetstream components that render form elements. There are a lot of examples inside your Laravel app. You don't have to follow the exact markup I'm using here. What matters is that you will put the form elements inside the modal and put the wire model for each form element. I know this is a tedious task, but once you establish everything, it will be all worth it. At this point, I'm just basically copying and pasting the HTML from the Tailwind website. I'm going to put the links to the Tailwind website in the GitHub repo. If you want to follow this tutorial in advance, you can download the most updated source code on the GitHub page. You can also pause the video and copy the implementation on how we put the Trix editor for Livewire. As you can see, we are using wire ignore on this so that Livewire doesn't update this element. Let's also add a bit of styling in our CSS to change our Trix editor's look. We will not need the history tools, so we will hide those elements too using our CSS. Open up your app.css and add these CSS code snippets. When you update any CSS or JavaScript in your Laravel app, you need to run npm run dev in your command line to recompile all the assets in your Laravel app. Now everything is set up, let's go ahead and write the create function for our create functionality. We will separate the assignment of data in another function so we can have a cleaner look. After saving, we should also hide the modal button. We also needed to reset all the Livewire properties or variables after saving. So let's create another function that resets all our Livewire properties. And let's add that in our create function. saving data from a form would never be complete without form validations. In Livewire, we can easily specify the validations by creating a public function called rules inside our class, just like what we do in Laravel. We need to have unique slugs, so we should validate slugs like this in our form validation. And don't forget to add the error messages in the view. We needed to add a bit of improvisation in naming slugs. We should just copy the name of the title and add it as a lowercase value in our slug. But with Livewire, we can make a function that automatically listens to the changes of a specific property. And since we wanted to make something happen each time we change the title's value, let's add another function called updatedTitle and put the data manipulation inside it. Here we will assign the value of the title to the slug variable. To see it in action, let's test it out a bit. Now that we see that it's working, let's go ahead and make some data manipulation inside our function. Let's create a function called generateSlug. Inside our generateSlug function, let's replace all the spaces with a dash symbol in the first process. And in the second process, let's transform the slug value to lowercase and finally assign the new value to the actual slug Livewire public property. Let's test it out again. As you can see, in Laravel 8 with Livewire, we can easily make our Laravel app reactive without having to deal with a lot of JavaScript stuff. And with the new Jetstream views, we can easily add modal components to our Livewire components without facing modal component issues. In the next videos, we are going to tackle the read, update, and delete functionalities. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, share, and subscribe if you're new to this channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll get notified whenever a new video is up. Stay tuned, and see you in the next video.